In 2014, Michael LaCour and Donald Green published a paper in Science magazine, here it is, showing that attitudes towards homosexuality can be changed by a short conversation. What they did was they sent an online survey to a bunch of different households, and one person in each household filled in the survey that had a load of different questions, but hidden in the middle somewhere were questions designed to capture what that person felt towards homosexuality. And then a short time later, a canvasser showed up at the door, and the canvasser was either a straight person or a gay person, and the canvasser talked to the householder for a short time, and we'll come back to what they said later on. And then a few days later, another online survey captured the same attitudes towards homosexuality, and then a few weeks later the same survey did the same thing, and then a few months later, and the results were quite astounding. So what they found was that there was an immediate change in attitude. People's attitudes towards homosexuality softened, and then when the canvasser was gay, those attitudes lasted weeks and months. Now, this throws up a bunch of different questions. So it measured attitude change. Is there also a behavioural change? Does it apply just at home, or does it apply in the workplace? Could we use this to fight discrimination in the workplace? Does it happen just with attitudes towards homosexuality, or is there would there be an associated change with attitudes towards race, towards gender, towards a bunch of other different things? And one young PhD student, David Brockman, decided to investigate some of these questions. He wanted to extend this study. Now, when you're capturing data like this over time with the same survey instrument, so if you ask someone a set of questions today and then the same set of questions in 6 months' time, you wouldn't expect to get exactly the same responses. And yet, David Brockman, when he investigated this, found that the original authors did get very, very similar answers, suspiciously similar answers actually. And when they asked to see the data was not easily forthcoming. They got hold of some pilot data, and the pilot data did not support the final results that were published in Science. And that was the loose thread that started to unravel the whole thing. So it turns out that it was all made up, or at least parts of it were made up, and we don't know exactly which parts were made up, and we probably never will at this stage. And the second author, Donald Green, apparently he didn't know anything about it. It was Michael LaCour that was blamed for this, although Donald Green would have signed a piece of paper when he submitted to Science saying that he had checked everything out. But anyway, I do feel kind of sorry for him. But let's not get into that. David Brockman did not stop there. He went on and replicated the first study, and quite amazingly found that the results that the original authors had made up actually do exist in nature. So he found an attitude change. The only difference between his results and the first set of results are that it didn't make any difference what sexual orientation the canvasser had. So it didn't matter if they were gay or straight. When they went in and talked to the householder, they were able to change the householder's attitudes. Now, how did they do it? Well, I'll put a link down here somewhere so you can have a look at the script that was used. But essentially, in order to change attitudes about a person, the canvasser tried to get the householder to take the perspective of that person, to try and put them in that person's shoes. And that was enough over a short conversation to change attitudes. So the theory that the original authors put forward turned out to be correct after all. Why did they not actually undertake the study properly? Well, we have actually talked about this before. It wasn't because it was any easier for them not to, because they wouldn't have actually been doing the canvassing anyway. They would have employed somebody, and presumably they had the funding there. For whatever reason, they didn't do it, and David Brockman and his team got the glory. They got the paper in Science a few years later, and David Brockman now has a post at Stanford University, one of the world's top universities. This video has been called Social Science Imitating Art. Of course, there is no art in a fraudulent paper. But the theory was sound, the research question was sound, and now the proper study has opened the way to all of those additional studies to look at behavioural change, to look at other aspects of this. There we are. Subscribe down here if you want more of these videos. Bye bye.